Hey there! Are you a crime scene investigator, law enforcement officer, or forensic scientist looking for a Facebook community that understands you? Check out Taction USA's forensic product groups. You'll find blogs, articles, information, and community. For those of us in the investigative field, there are not many lines of support out there, but Taction USA is a company that was founded by law enforcement for law enforcement. Subscribe today to get access to exclusive content. Just look for Taction USA in Facebook groups.
And welcome once again to Crossing the Tape, a mini episode. This time around, the forensic news for the month May in the year. This one.
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So we've talked about DNA before, and this mini episode is just kind of reiterating just the advances of DNA, and that a little goes a long way. And before all the advances in DNA, investigators relied solely on fingerprints, witness statements, and confessions. And this was, way back when there were forensic disciplines, but it was very limited.
Yes.
So, they may collect blood, but it was just to collect it. It wasn't really to test it. And as time goes on, DNA has become the center stage of forensics.
Yes.
When the science of DNA came along, law enforcement realized that they could collect it and have it analyzed, which, again, even in the 80s, it wasn't that prevalent.
No. It was certainly, collected as part of the crime scene and
right.
heavily documented that there was blood here.
Yeah.
So when they go to court, nobody can say somebody didn't believe them.
The only problem was that often there were no other sample, like no database to compare it with. So there's been numerous cold cases that are being solved today because, yes, DNA was collected, but they couldn't compare it with anything.
Right. Don't let your favorite detective shows lie to you. You can't just, there's blood here and we put it in a machine that said it belongs to this guy.
No, you have to be able to compare it.
Right. That guy's information, his DNA already has to be in the database
yes.
that is being tested against.
So from there, DNA testing advanced and expanded with familial DNA testing, where analysts test DNA samples and compare them to other databases like, genealogy ones. So that's another advancement, is that you can take, there's been serial killers or cold cases where, the suspect is long gone. So how do you compare DNA? Somebody's family member will come up and say, oh, I think Grandpa so-and-so might have been it. Mm-hmm. Take my DNA and compare it to the crime scene.
Right, or if it's believed that, that person may have involved, well, if they have a willing,
right,
child, grandchild, whatever,
it really
who's willing to submit that for comparison.
So that was another advancement. And finally, CODIS was developed, which is the database where all DNA sits. And for most prisons, if you're in prison, they will take not only your fingerprints, but they will now take your DNA.
Yes.
And that goes directly into CODIS, which has been a huge advancement. Just like APHIS, the fingerprint database, you have to have something to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think DNA really took off when there have been collective databases for both familial DNA plus direct DNA that's been through CODIS. Somebody commits a crime in the 70s, but DNA is collected and nothing's found, but then they commit another crime in the 2000s, their DNA is taken, and then it's tested, and that's how we get hits on DNA and matches.
Mm-hmm. So
crime labs can now test, tiny particles, and it can be an identifiable profile.
Yeah, you used to need a healthy bit.
Yes, and it was you needed a healthy bit, and you could only maybe test it a few times. Mm-hmm. But now, if you have a decent amount of DNA, you have a few chances. It's still very sensitive.
Yes,
but now you can get a profile from a couple skin cells, which is a huge advancement.
Right, and those it might be possible to analyze that minuscule amount more than once.
Yes.
Whereas before, you were basically using all of what you collected in one shot, and if that wasn't fruitful,
you're
too
out of
bad.
Luck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it really has. That's to me the reason it's been the game changer in recent years.
Yes.
Is because it has advanced so much. I mean, fingerprints are still advancing too. They're
absolutely.
They're coming up with 3D technology for fingerprints. And
sometimes a photograph of a fingerprint can be used.
I have done that.
Which blew my mind. Like, I thought you needed the actual lift from the scene, but if you can get a good enough photo.
I've been able to make a match from a photograph. Mm-hmm. That's why crime scene photos are imperative.
Yes, don't rush through the crime scene photos, please.
But anyway, that's our little episode for today about DNA, and just a reminder that it is so important, and it's just come such a long way. And
if you've done anything wrong, they're gonna get you.
Right? No hiding.
It is incredible. I mean, between all of those advancements, that there's now database with every felon who's ever been.
Yeah.
And, they can speak to someone's great nephew and get, a familial match, and later, reanalyze evidence that was collected and find there's a almost non-existent little smidgen of skin cell. Yeah. And now you've got a profile and a match and everything that you need. Right. So that's why in the next, I mean, from here to the end of time now, but especially in the next few years, we're going to see more and more of these cold cases. Oh, yeah. Suddenly popping up that they were solved because something that couldn't have been done at the time. Yeah. Now that's, that's a cakewalk. That's right. Has been done with confirmation, not just maybe it's this person. Very firm confirmation. Right. So hopefully more major case solves in the coming years. Right. That's what we hope for. Yes. And we do thank you for joining us. Yes. And of course, next month you'll hear from Brendan with a mini mystery. Mm-hmm. But after that, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And for the rest of the year, I will have a Jack the Ripper series. And we'll dive deep into each murder and a little bit more of the history and kind of debunking some of the conspiracies. Yes. And maybe looking at that through the lens of today's forensic technology. Yes, and how maybe evidence that was collected back then with each Jack the Ripper scene, what could have been done now, the what ifs. Yes. So I think that'll be interesting. Yes, that'll be plenty of fun and, plenty of murder. Well, true. But, but you know me and my nerdy history, so I think it'll be a fun time. Yes. Thank you for listening. And please join us again soon, and so long. Stay safe.